Let me introduce you to Mexican yarn painting by the Huechol people. These paintings are called niricas. Until very recently, the Huechol people of Mexico did not have a written language. Instead, they communicated their history through stories and symbols. This tradition is still strong for the Huechol, and we can learn a lot about their beliefs by looking at their artwork. Niricas are traditional yarn paintings made by the Huechol people. Natural glue made from tree resin and beeswax is applied to a board, and yarn is pressed into it and left to harden. The designs and symbols on the Niricas are based on their myths, stories, and personal daily activities. The yarn paintings portray the Huechol belief that people are connected to nature and all living things. Niricas are not purely decorative objects. They are purposeful and very important to the Huechol people. These spiritual artworks are part of the rituals the Huechols participate in on a regular basis, and they begin learning them at a very young age. A Nirica is a device that allows a Huechol person to communicate with the spirit world once created. They are left in sacred places for the gods.
Today we will be making our own yarn paintings inspired by Niricas. We will be using cardstock, yarn, glue, a pencil, and scissors. Please take out your own pencil and scissors for the activity. First, we will begin by sketching the design you want to create. We will want to keep it simple so you have enough time to complete the art project. You can do a landscape, an animal, a flower, or anything that is a simple design. I'm going to design an ocean scene with a orca whale tail. We just got back from a trip and my daughter loves seeing the orca whales, so I'm going to go ahead and put a whale tail coming out of the ocean along with a sunset. And you can decide whatever design feels right for you. After you've sketched out your drawing, be sure to add your name to the back of the page. Next, we will add a very thin line of glue to one of the line designs on your paper. And then we will lightly adhere a piece of yarn. Just gently tack down the yarn to the glue without getting your fingers too wet, and then you will trim. And we'll keep moving along the design, adding more yarn so that there's no white spaces to your design. So it's adding the color. So you're using the yarn to create color as you would in a painting or a drawing. And we'll keep doing that and until you reach a new line, and then you'll want to change the yarn you're using like I do here. I'm creating wave patterns in the ocean, so I have a different colored blue yarn for this piece. Now you can trim your yarn or you can also wrap it. So for each end of a line, you can either wrap it into the next line or you could just trim out the excess. Now I'm going to start working on my whale tail. So I'm going to add an outline yarn for the tail, and then I'll fill it in with a different colored yarn so it creates a nice outline of the whale tail. Now I'm going to add the sun to my design, and with these pieces, you can have them hang off the edge as I've done here with the sun and the water, as I have a little bit of excess of yarn hanging off the edge. And that's okay because later, once your painting is all dry, then you can trim up those edges. You don't really want to cut them when your painting is still wet because it could pull the yarn off. And again, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to see how the edges of the sky are hanging off the edge. I'm just going to leave those like that. I'm going to add a cloud. So you can see with the cloud, I'm wrapping the yarn. Occasionally I'll trim it, but I like to give it that kind of like fluffy cloud look. So I'm just going to wrap it instead of having a bunch of hard trimmed edges. Now I'm going to finish adding sky until my painting is complete. So I want to cover up all the white space. You may choose to have white space in your painting, but I want it to be totally covered in yarn. Now I'm all finished with my yarn painting. I'm going to carefully lift it off the table or the mat so that it doesn't pull the glue or the yarn. And if it's dry enough, you can trim your yarn painting now. But if it still feels wet, you'll maybe want to wait until the next day or later in the day to trim your yarn painting, whatever your teacher decides is best. I'm really happy with how my yarn painting turned out. I hope you enjoyed this activity.